Good morning. It is Sunday, May 3rd, and hopefully going to do some spraying, although it's a little bit gray this morning. I'm not getting a real early start because of that. It wasn't supposed to rain today, but there was kind of some stuff showing up on radar. I'm not exactly sure if anything, or if much at least, was hitting the ground, but kind of holding off a little bit to see what happened with that. But Lizzie's excited, aren't you? So I think I'm gonna probably try to spray the farm that's a few miles away first. With running 10 gallons to the acre after I recalibrated the stuff there a couple days ago to be able to run a little faster, I should be able to spray that farm with 2 loads. So I'm just gonna go back and forth with the sprayer instead of messing around pulling the water trailer over there. I'll have probably at least 40 minutes tied up in driving back and forth, but I think by the time I gathered everything up and drove the other tractor over there, or even with somebody else drove it, it's still going to take a similar amount of time to screw around to get everything ready to go to do it that way. And this way I just have stuff here and can rinse jugs with the garden hose from the hydrant and everything else, and don't have to deal with that later. So it seems like that is the easier solution. I'll just make sure that I've got the rinse tank full so that if I need to mix up a couple acres to finish off the field, I have enough chemical with me to do that, basically. So that's where we're at. Gonna go spray. It is a really nice day for it. There's not much wind today, so far at least. Just out for a nice Sunday drive. Seeing some countryside in the tractor. I did get the farm that's a few miles away from the home farm there sprayed on my way back with the sprayer, so I was able to do it in 2 trips. Actually came out about perfect on chemical and didn't even have to mix up anything with the rinse tank. So you can see the extra chemical on the platform there, but didn't have to use it. So got that ready to go. I'm gonna hopefully do another load to finish up some soybean ground around Mom and Dad's place there, and hopefully, I think I have a little bit more than 1 load probably left, so I'm hoping that I've got enough daylight left to get a full load sprayed off and make up a little one and get the last little jag on another farm done, and then I'll be done spraying soybeans. And if it rains tomorrow, I can clean out the sprayer and get it ready to go for spraying corn, whenever the time comes to do that. Sprayer worked well. Didn't have any more problems with the center section valve that was causing me a little issue there a couple days ago. Last week, I guess. Today's Sunday, so I can say last week. Don't even have to know what day it is. And this is actually the farm here where that happened. And when I drove by earlier, I didn't see any bright green stripes. The rye is starting to turn brown. So I'm hoping that I just have the one spot where I noticed it happen the first time. And I may call that a test. I need to get over here with the 4-wheeler and look things over. But I don't see any bright green zebra stripes in the field, so that's good news. But I kind of had wanted to try a section with letting the rye grow a little bit longer and not putting pre down, just to see like how fast and how bad the weeds would come. So if I have a 20-foot strip that didn't get sprayed, that might become my test for that. But since it's dry and not windy right now, I'm going to spray and see what happens with the chances of rain tomorrow. I haven't even looked at a forecast this afternoon, but the last I knew, there was a pretty decent likelihood, like 60% chance, I think, of a quarter to a half or a tenth to a quarter, somewhere in that ballpark. So hopefully not huge quantities, and with it being fairly dry, hopefully nothing that's going to take too long to dry out. But not thinking I'm going to be planting beans tomorrow. We'll see though. Looks like we might get a kind of nice sunset tonight. Unfortunately, instead of enjoying it with a cold beverage on a deck or patio, I'm in a tractor cab trying to get spraying done to beat weather. Such is farming life. I've got about like 5.5, 6 acres left in this field, and I'll be done spraying soybean pre. the stuff all mixed up. We should have a little bit of extra, so I hope I don't run out, but I brought along some extra chemicals to mix up a little bit if I do run short. Everything went pretty smoothly. Got done more or less what I wanted to today. Didn't get as early a start as I would have liked, so I'm kind of pushing the sun a little bit here on the tail end, but that's what happens when there's weather. Showers and stuff this morning kind of slowed me down. So as we're rolling across the field here, I thought I would try to do a little bit of a visual. So this is the rye that I sprayed a couple days ago. 3 days ago, I believe. I think it was Thursday. And up here ahead, kind of to the left, you can see what hasn't been sprayed is a much lusher green. I don't know if that's entirely the glyphosate taking effect. The other pre-emerge herbicide that I use kind of has a tendency to burn grass, but not necessarily kill it. So I don't know if some of the visual response could be from that Valor component or not, but that's why I think my center section mostly worked, because I don't have any bright green stripes like that that I can see from the road at least. So I think that probably means I just have one 20-foot wide strip from that center section, like after I crossed a waterway until I got kind of to the top of the hill and noticed that the gauge wasn't on. So it's probably only, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards, maybe less than that even. So that'll be a good length for a little bit of an experiment. Well, got finished. Tractor is tucked in the shop. Lizzie is munching on some June bugs, which are apparently out. It's a ways from June yet. Finishing up spraying went pretty smoothly. I did see a few spots where the center section either didn't come on or I hit the wrong switch. Since it was the center section in all cases, based on what I could tell from the GPS, I kind of suspect that it was being a little flaky. I'm trying to get video of her attacking. High protein snack, huh, Lizzie? There's one there. None of those fought back. There's one over here. Multi-talented dog. I think that's all of them. Anyway, I went ahead and sprayed some of those spots. A couple of them were where I had really short rows, so probably I just didn't look back to see the gauge didn't come up because the sprayer or the boom section was only on for 15 or 20 seconds, or probably less than that even in at least one of the cases. But I did leave a little test strip at least, so I'll spray that off with just straight glyphosate Roundup, probably with a 4-wheeler sprayer, and flag that spot and maybe do some weed counts before we do the first post pass. It's Monday morning and it's raining. Had a little shower earlier and then a little bit of a break. Sort of went around with the 4-wheeler and scouted some corn and such to see how things were looking. A lot of it's coming up. Really popped a lot yesterday since it was fairly warm, and we're kind of on the second round of the showers now, so we're on to random maintenance tasks. So the first thing that I've been working on here is getting the charging system on the tractor working, and it actually turned out that the problem was not the alternator, as I thought. It's actually in that connector where the red and white wire go into the top of the alternator. Pretty much anything that I do electrically, I solder, because crimps with a hand crimper tend to not be very reliable, especially in high vibration applications. And I know there's people that'll say soldering will cause the wire to break internally, and whatever, they can have that opinion, but I disagree. So the connector there was brand new shortly before we replaced the alternator, because I thought that the connector was the problem, and then that didn't fix it. And I think it came from Napa, which usually Napa's electrical stuff tends to be a little bit better than some places. But what happened basically was there was a bad crimp where the terminal was crimped inside that connector. I thought maybe it wasn't making very good connection on the tab, so I was trying to pull the contacts out of the housing to bend them so they would grip tighter, and in the process that red wire pulled straight out, and it looked like the white wire was not really crimped very well either. So those are now re-crimped and soldered, so hopefully a little more secure, and we got everything put back together and it seems to be working. So that saved me a trip to town and getting the alternator diagnosed on a machine, and hopefully we have a charging system, so if we take this down the highway we can have the flashers run without running the battery down. With an old diesel like this, it actually doesn't need electricity other than to start the tractor and run accessory stuff, because you don't have spark plugs or any electronics that are required for running the engine. Once it's going, it's running off the injection pump. But we do need to, the farm that we have to plant whenever the weather breaks is a ways away, and probably need to go down the highway, and having flashing lights would definitely be a good thing. So that's good to know. The other possibility is that we might get some long hoses and just use the planter tractor to fill out of the wagon. That would allow us to pull the wagon with the pickup rather than the tractor, because we need to go a few miles past that farm to get some seed to bring back to it. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do, but the good news, I guess, is that this tractor has a charging system that works now. So one thing off the to-do list. Well, the corn is coming up. So are some weeds. This field, or this spot at least, isn't really too bad. So it rained. Not a lot, but definitely you can see it's plenty black on top. I think it's maybe 1500ths or so thus far. So not enough to make things really wet, but too wet to do much at this particular instant. And it sounds like more rain is probably coming later today and tonight. So just kind of working on some random stuff, probably grease the planter here after a bit, and was going to sort of start the sprayer cleanout process. One of the herbicides that we use for the pre-emerge herbicide on beans is can have a tendency to collect in the booms. I believe it's a wettable powder, something like that. Anyway, it starts out dry, but can like settle out, especially in the end caps or the dead end pieces on the booms. And then if you have any of that left, it'll resolubilize. I think that's the word. Go back into solution when you're spraying something else, and potentially cause crop damage, which we don't want. So we kind of do a little more thorough clean out process after spraying that particular herbicide, and basically we'll do a full rinse procedure with ammonia and some rinse water. So basically mix it up, run it through all of the agitation lines and the chemical inductor that we use to suck the chemical into the sprayer, and then push it out the booms to kind of try to take as much chemical out that's in there, and also like have the ammonia sit in the booms for a little bit, and then run some commercial tank cleaner through kind of the same way, and potentially like let one or both of those sit in the sprayer overnight. So I think usually we'll kind of flush the ammonia and then pull clean water out of the rinse tank, put the tank cleaner in that, and then let it sit overnight, and then flush it again with plain water, and pull the end caps off of all the booms and all of the strainers. So there's a boom strainer on each section, which on this sprayer there's 3 sections. So there's one there, one in the center, and then one on the other boom. There's also a screen in this thing that has to come apart that's kind of a pain, and there's a screen on the suction line right up there to the right of the manhole. So all those have to come out and get sprayed out. I need to crawl up and look in the tank and see exactly how much gunk we have. It seems like, I don't know if it's from the crop oil or the 2,4-D or what, but there was definitely a little bit of goo in there, which we don't love, but sometimes just happens a little bit. So may try to kind of knock some of that stuff out into a bucket before we put the water in to rinse with the ammonia and everything. So that's probably what the next project is going to be, is working on this guy and get it ready to go so that once we finish planting beans and get ready to start doing post-pass on corn, everything will be tip-top and ready to go. And if I find anything that's not tip-top, I can get parts ordered and get them here. There's a few things that I know I need, or want at least. They haven't slowed me down necessarily, but a few sort of minor issues that we'd like to get fixed. And I believe I used the last O-rings. Like the O-rings on these boom strainers are an oddball metric deal that you can't really buy locally. I mean, all Hardy stuff is a little bit oddball. I think that Hardy does make really good pull-type sprayers, especially on a worldwide basis. But since they're based in Europe, everything is metric and oddball, from hydraulic fittings to metric plastic fittings on the lines and everything else. When Dad bought this sprayer, he actually bought it new at a dealer probably 30 miles away from here or so. However, they since got sort of absorbed by a conglomerate that I don't believe carries Hardy at all anymore. So there's a really good Hardy dealer that's farther away but stocks a lot of parts that Dad has dealt with probably for 20 years, I would guess, that usually we'll just call in and order to them every once in a while, and then it'll show up on our doorstep the next day. So most likely that's what I'll do. But for right now, let's try to get this thing cleaned out. Well, the tractor and sprayer are back in the shop. Got everything cleaned and flushed with the ammonia and then the tank cleaner. So I got the tank cleaner soaking in the booms and tank overnight to kind of try to make sure we get as much of that stuff broken up or neutralized as possible. So probably take that back over tomorrow or in the next few days at least sometime and flush it out with clear water to get all the tank cleaner out of there and sort of give it a final rinse, and then it'll be ready to go for corn spraying. I've got the planter greased. It's been sprinkling a little bit more. It looks pretty gray to the west. Haven't looked at radar, but it sounded like there was supposed to be some more rain coming here really shortly. It's about 6 o'clock. I think we're going to call it a day, night, whatever you want to say. Lizzie's had a busy day playing with the hose. She loves the garden hose with the spray nozzle more than anything in the world, don't you? So, not a real busy day today, but that's been kind of nice because it seems like I've been running pretty hard the last couple weeks. So we're going to kind of quit here a little early and sit down for a few minutes and something that's not a tractor cab and see what tomorrow brings. I think my guess is best case we might be able to plant tomorrow afternoon, but that might be best case. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to do, and it of course will depend how much it rains overnight. So stay tuned.